Well, hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Power of Words podcast. If you're coming back to the show, thank you so much for listening in or watching us, because the people we have on here share the power of words, just so that you know you are not alone. And I'm really excited to have with me today Molly Fink. Welcome, Molly. Thank you for being here. Molly has an incredible story, but also a path to healing trauma. And I can't wait to talk with you about all these exciting things and share with our audience. Tell me a little bit about just the surface of what you do.
Okay, so I really believe that trauma exists inside of you in real time. And so trauma has two forms, the lowercase t and capital T. And so the difference is this. Lowercase t would be you're a middle child. You feel like your parents kind of ignored you because you had an older sibling and a younger sibling. They both got most of the attention. You kind of went through life. That's lowercase t trauma. Everybody in life has it. It's just part of being a human being. Then there's capital T trauma, which would be, for instance, in my case, I'm a sexual assault survivor. That's capital T, right? Something that really hits your life, has a deep impact, and really alters the course of where you thought you were going to end up. And so I really believe in both, and I believe that people develop coping mechanisms to deal with both. And so what I do is I work with my clients to really go in and A, figure out what your coping mechanisms are, and B, how do we help you move forward? Because trauma will happen forever.
Yeah.
Forever. And my goal is to, in a very short amount of time, work with my clients to give them the tools that they need to forever deal with their own traumas. Because to tell somebody you're going to live a life free of trauma is not realistic in any capacity. But to tell somebody no matter what happens, you will get up and you will thrive and you'll be resilient, as the word that you use, is totally believable.
Let's wind back a little bit.
Yes.
So you have the tools, you talk about the tools, and you talk about dealing with trauma. Mm-hmm. Tell me what you do. I know you called it regressive hypnotherapy.
Yes. So I'm a regressive hypnotherapist, but I actually created my own program called the Molly Fink methodology. And essentially, I believe that human beings are mathematical equations. And so when anybody comes to me, they give me their math, which essentially is their life, and they say, I'm blocked here. And what I do is I look at your math, and essentially what ends up happening is your subconscious provide bad math to protect you. It does it all the time. It does it on a regular basis. And so when my clients come to me, we go through the math, and based on where your math is wrong, I know that's where your subconscious is actually trying to protect you and hide something. And so I immediately delve in very fast, very quickly, and almost pull apart your subconscious until your subconscious runs out of bad math, and the real answers start floating up. And through that, we're able to really heal you in real time in your trauma.
When you talk about math, you're talking about date and time and place of birth. Is that the math
you're talking about?
I mean, okay.
And I'll give you an example. This is an extreme one, but I had a client, very, very successful, has had insomnia since he was 9 years old. He has literally been to everybody all over the world, and a good friend of mine, who was his COO, essentially said, my friend can heal you. And I was like, that's a lot. Thank you so much. But I will try. And so he met with me, and I also really believe that everything comes from God. So whenever I really am able to help my clients, I really feel that it's just, I wake up every day. It's a gift. But essentially he came to me and he said, I've had insomnia since I was 9 years old. And so the math at the outset was bizarre. And so this was where the math was the most, I want to say, off, was his father. He would describe his father as someone who was highly insecure, wouldn't be around people. His father was also a missionary, would pick up hitchhikers off the road. Those two things cannot exist. That person cannot exist in the same body of energy. You cannot be afraid of people and pull over a hitchhiker and pull over, tell your kid to move to the back because you're getting a hitchhiker on the side of the road. Wow. It's bad math. And unfortunately, what I figured out much earlier than him, but then he went and eventually figured it out and called his mother. His father had been sexually assaulting him, and he stopped sleeping. And he said she started screaming on the phone and just said, we hoped you would never remember. But he stopped sleeping when he was 9 years old as a result. And his subconscious just buried it completely and made up an entire story about his father that was not true.
Oh, wow. When you talk about picking up hitchhikers and being an introvert,
Yes.
I know that there are good people that would be introverts and want to do a good deed. And I would stop to pick up a hitchhiker.
But I would never describe you as an introvert by the fact that you're willing to interview me, right? That it doesn't. Introverts do amazing things. Are they telling their kid to get to the back of the car so they can get a hitchhiker? Absolutely not. That personality cannot coexist.
Okay. Also, because I think the safer place for the child to be is behind, because if you have a stranger in the car, you don't want them behind you. Anyway, so you do regressive hypnotherapy.
Yes.
What led you to this? What made you want to do what you're doing today?
So I was actually a therapist. And as I told you, I'm a sexual assault survivor. And I spent years in therapy afterwards. And everyone just kind of told me, you're never going to heal, and this is really your burden to bear, so to speak. And I really, in my heart, felt this cannot be life. This cannot be me walking around with just this deep sadness. And so I will try anything once. I literally tried almost everything once. And so a good friend of mine said, there's something called regressive hypnotherapy. Try a session. I said, okay. So I went in and she healed me in one session. I walked out of that session. I cry whenever I think about it. And she single-handedly gave me back a piece of myself that I had been searching for at that point for about 10 years. Yeah. And I just said to her, I have to know how to do this. And she laughed in my face openly and said, this is really very hard to do. And it's really for a certain type of person. And I just said, I have been looking for this my whole life. I'm going to do this. And so then I really heavily pursued her until she agreed to teach me. And that was it.
So you can actually learn how to hypnotize someone. It's not something. It's not like
learn hypnosis, but the regression part, no.
Is that something that you're born with? It's almost like intuition.
That's exactly what it is.
It's like psychics that you see.
It's really
things.
a natural or unnatural ability. So she had a completely different way of doing it. So I really had to hone in on my ability to do it. Like she was able to actually go in through energy pockets and recreate memories. She could actually be in the memory with you.
Wow.
It was unbelievable. I cannot do that. What I can do is actually go into the physiology of your body and based on your physiology, figure out what's going on. So like, for instance, I had a client who was just like the happiest, most outgoing person. And she said to me, I have high levels of anxiety. And I was like, okay. And I went in and I remember I was overwhelmed. Her whole body was in fight or flight response. Every nerve in her, and I just looked at her and I said, this is amazing. She said, I know. She said, I hide it really well. But basically your energy to me is a barometer where I can really gauge where you're supposed to be and where I want to take you. And that's what I do.
Oh, wow. And I can't wait to do a session with you now. That's amazing. It's funny, when we last met, you said to me, everything you want is going to happen. Mm-hmm. I don't know why. I don't even know if you remember saying that.
I do remember very well, yes.
And it's almost like it played back in my mind a few times, and then we talked after that. Yes. And I don't know what you meant by that, but I was just curious. Yes. But I started to see things unfold and started to see things come together.
Yes.
Now, is that a gift? Because we'd barely met, we hadn't even talked. Yes. So how do you pick up something like that from a total stranger?
So you have very open energy. And so it's someone like you, I actually feel very comfortable. Energy come to me, I don't go to energy. So for instance, I would never go into somebody without permission. But your energy actually, it was outside of you. And there was a genuine worry that was almost around you. You were wearing it like a blanket almost. And I just got this voice almost, like just this thing, just tell her, like, whatever it is, it's gonna work out. She's gonna be okay. And so then I was like, okay, you're gonna be okay. But this is actually very funny. A very good friend of mine. She became a very good friend afterwards. I had a session with her. I could not get in. Did not matter what I did. I couldn't get in. And she, like, joked about it that she definitely has walls down. And then we became really good friends. And every once in a while, she'll just say to me, like, try and break in. And I've tried. And then one day I was just like, this is it. I'm going to be able to break in. And I broke in like this. And I texted her and I said, walked right in. And she went, oh my God, I was sleeping. And there's a whole thing that I go with my clients. When you're sleeping, you have to do, like, but your energy and your inability to kind of figure out what goes in and out is completely different when you're sleeping. I walked right in and it was really cool, but it was also a message to me that you really have to be very conscious when you go to sleep to be aware of the energy that you want to invite into and then kind of let go of what you don't want in real time.
This is so fascinating. Now, who do you think actually needs this? So is it someone that feels like they're struggling with something? I'm asking you because, so many people are, I don't want to say suffer inside, but hold things inside that are really painful.
Yes.
So is this for someone who feels like they're in that spot and they're happy and social and doing things and working and going about life and raising kids, but there's something in the back that you've kind of suppressed. Mm-hmm. And when we've talked, you've called it the coping mechanism. And that is so, I understand that so well because my siblings and I had a pretty traumatic childhood. Mm-hmm. And no abuse in any way, but it was just traumatic through illness in the family. And I always kind of came out the survivor. People told me you're always smiling. And when you talked about coping mechanism, I felt that, mm-hmm. I was like, oh my God, that's what it is. We all as human beings need to cope. So what you're saying is that we need to release that, and you bring that to the surface and you bring that out so you can be your best self. Is that?
Yes. So there's another part to what you just said, which is artificial propping. It's a term I made up. You artificially prop yourself. Everybody does it.
Yes.
So
we put on a face, that's exactly so to speak.
Right. You're in great shape. Your kids are doing well. Life is going well. And oftentimes, or I wish it wasn't so, the majority of people that come to me, they come because, like me, with my sexual assault, something deeply cut out the artificial propping. They cannot maintain the space that they were in. And so when they come to me, it's because they just got the wind knocked out of them. But I would love for someone to just come to me and say, I'm artificially propping. My life is actually going pretty well, but I have severe coping mechanisms. And so anybody watching this would say, well, how do I know? And this is my question to you. Do you have a deep desire that you cannot fulfill? Because it's really my belief that desire is the universe talking to you and telling you where you're blocked. Because that's what desire is. You're saying, I want X, and then you try and go after it. And if you find systematically that you can't get to X, it's not because you're not trying, it's because you're actually blocked. And it's your artificial propping and your coping mechanism which are blocking you.
Okay. And we can air this or not.
Yes.
I look at life differently, right? We all want to do things and we all try to do things. Yes. And it might never happen. The goal might be too far-fetched or for whatever reasons. I believe that I am exactly where I'm meant to be at this point in time. If I'm working at something and it isn't happening, is because it's not meant to be. And I have to look at in that exact moment.
Yes, but just because something not happening for you in that exact moment doesn't mean that it's not meant to be. Can you, that is the whole idea behind quantum physics, is that you are the observer phenomenon, right? You are the observer. So you as the observer, yes, that's the paradox you have to hold. In any given moment, you are exactly where you're supposed to be. You're exactly who you're supposed to be. But it's the universe giving you desire, telling you, go to X, that is giving you the potential to become a different observer of your own life.
You just said something so amazing. I'm going to freaking go to X.
Yes.
Yes.
Good.
Oh, wow. No, sorry to interrupt you, but I had to just say that at that moment in time. Yeah. I feel like you have, and everybody does, everybody has it. I'm sure that, there are so many entrepreneurs that I work with that have that vision and struggle to get there. And I hope you guys are listening, because go to X. You're not exactly where you're meant. Oh, you are exactly where you're meant to be at this moment in time. But if you've got a vision for X, you can actually get there.
100%. And the craziest part is so many other things have to happen oftentimes by the time that you get to X, that it really is the journey, not the destination. Because when you finally land at X and you see all the amazing things that had to get you to X, X is like the cherry on top of that massive sundae. But it's the sundae that you're like, this is awesome.
Yeah. It's the path. It's the path. It's the journey. It's not the end result.
That's exactly right.
Really. And it's what makes you who you are, is being able to go down that path no matter how hard.
That's exactly right. Yes.
Amazing. Yeah. What's next for you? What do you want to do? What do you want to do with this kind of, in a way, it's a power, it's a talent that you have?
Yeah. If I'm going to be completely honest.
Go for your X, honey.
My long-term goal is to really upend the entire psychology system. I don't know why people are in therapy for years. I think it's really a disservice to everybody and to humanity. Give people tools, and if they fall at a certain point, have them come back. But I've spoken to therapists who have had clients for 20 years, literally.
Why?
What? The longest client I ever had was a year, and that was when I first started out. I now have a 40-day program where I flat out tell my clients after the 40 days,
I don't need to see you.
We'll never see each other again. And I get like emails, messages, beautiful photos, but I have yet to get a client that had come back to me and just been like, it didn't work. Unequivocally works.
Oh, wow. I so believe in tools, and, at the Power of Words, we have the Power of 7, which is the 7 colors and 7 words. And it's about living your life with intention on a daily basis. And you don't need a therapist to do that. I believe people do need therapists, people do need apps, but I also believe in communicating. And I think what helped me a lot, and what still helps me till today, is the community I have around you, the people I have around me when I walk into the studio. It's that energy that I pick up. They understand, we speak. I want all of them to wear their bands every day so I know what they're feeling, and we can talk about the emotions sometimes. But yes, you need simple and impactful tools, but that helps you express yourself and helps you recognize someone else's emotions, because we go through life so immersed and involved in us. Mm-hmm. Even therapy is about you. You don't get out there and say, what are you thinking about? We see friends, we have social conversations, we ask about kids, ask about work, ask about vacation, but do we ever say, how are you really feeling inside? Is there something that you want to talk about? I mean, how would you ask that question? I don't even know how. So yes, we all need tools.
100%. I think, how would you ask that question? That's a great question. I think it's,
and when I see you today, Molly, how are you feeling? Would be strange for me to ask, right? And some people will think like, I'm fine. Why are you asking me that? Do I look bad? Do I look sad?
Yes.
So this is what is the expression of emotions. Yes. So if I really want to say something and I don't want to talk about it, I'm wearing it. And maybe I'm wearing it hoping someone will strike up a conversation with me. It's a conversation starter.
Yeah.
Or it just helps me pick up the courage to say, I want to talk.
Absolutely. I think for myself, this is a macabre statement, but I'm going to say it anyway. And I've always said this openly to all my friends. I want you there on the happiest day of my life, but if you can't be there, that's okay. But I need you on the worst day of my life.
Yeah,
and I feel that so many people, it's too focused on the happiest days
On
of
the
their
good
life,
days, yes.
and nobody's focused on the saddest.
You know, it's so true. So, I have a family, I have kids, I work as well. And a lot of the time, there are so many amazing things that happen. And, there are dinners and parties and social gatherings. And I can't be at all of that. And I always say to people, don't worry if I don't show up to something fun. Yes. But if there's something that's, if you need me, I'll be there. Exactly. No matter what. Exactly. I'll be there at the important times that really will make a difference to you. In a big crowd, I'm just there with everyone else. Yes. So you're so right about that. Yes.
And so I think that if I were to say to anyone, how did you really start that conversation? How are you feeling? Is to really ask yourself, and it's okay if you can't. I've had weeks or days where I just could not show up. I could barely show up for myself. So I just could not show up for other people. And my really good friends, I've had open conversation where they said to me, I really needed X and you weren't there. And I was like, I could not be there for you because I could barely be there for myself. And so that needs to be another conversation that people really need to be open with themselves about. But assuming that you're okay, to really, when you ask another person, how are you doing? To really mentally make a decision that you're going to show up and really be there for that person.
Yes. If they're going to share with you that you're going to listen. Yes. I think sometimes people just want you to listen. They're not looking for a solution. They just want you to listen.
100%. Yes.
Yeah. Now, this was wonderful, so amazing. I can't wait to get a regressive hypnotherapy session with you. I'm looking forward. And do you want to tell the audience where they can find you, how they can find you?
Right here?
Right over
there. Okay. You can find me on mollyfink.com or on Instagram, Molly Fink Methodology. And I really look forward to hopefully hearing from you.
Well, I do hope that you reach out to Molly because she's amazing at what she does. And I think we all need to, all of us at some point in time, feel like we're, we suppress things, we just bury things deep inside. And I think if there's a way that we can bring that to the surface and relieve ourselves, maybe it will just make us better people, relate to people better, and bring your best self out into the world using the power of your words. Thank you all for being here. And thank you, Molly.
Thank you.
Amazing.